I'm Jim Winkler. Today I want to talk about finishes in leather. These are some full hides on the wall here, and there's different types of finishes on furniture. In previous examples, we talked about top grain leather and frame construction. The other thing to look for in leather furniture is the finish that's on the leather. Pure aniline is a naked or natural dyed aniline leather. Aniline is a translucent stain that is used to dye leather furniture. These hides are stuck in large drums at the tannery, and they're tumbled, forcing the dye through the hide. Sometimes they're tumbled 10 to 12 hours. They sit in vats and soak the dye in. And aniline is just a translucent stain that colors the hides. On a aniline leather like this here, that's all that's done to it. And that's considered a pure aniline. If they just dye the hide itself with natural dyes and nothing else is done to it as far as finishing, it's a pure aniline. Pure anilines are the softest, most expensive leathers in the world. They have the cleanest hides. The leather is a byproduct of the meat industry. And in the tannery, they cull the hides for the quality. The top 5 to 7% of the hides will be dyed as a pure aniline. They have very few flaws or natural imperfections occurring on the hide. Those hides generally come from European or Scandinavian countries where the climates are cooler and the hides are larger. The animals are larger. They're pen cattle. They don't have weather and insect infestation like we have here in the States. And being a byproduct, after the leather's tan, you have some very beautiful skins. So the quality of the skin itself dictates what they do to it. A full aniline is basically a pure aniline, but with a little processing done to it as far as a finish. Sometimes a roller coat can be put on the surface to add a little bit of color, or a little very light micropigment on the top, or some type of water repellency can be added to the leather to give it some protection. Then it becomes a full aniline. So a pure aniline is more of a nude, naked leather. A full aniline has a little bit of a protection or a little bit of a color coat put on top of the surface, and it gives it some repellency or some added durability. From there, semi-aniline or aniline plus. Those are the same exact terms. Aniline plus or semi-aniline leather is the next 10 to 15% of the raw material in the world. It is initially dyed like a pure aniline. It's drum dyed, colored all the way through, but the hides dictate that they have to do something else to that. Sometimes these leathers are plated or embossed slightly, and they put a micropigment or additional finish coats on the surface of the hide. So they're dyed initially, then they go through a machine that actually will put a slight color coat on the surface. A semi-aniline or aniline plus leather has more cleanability properties, ease of care than, say, a pure or full aniline. It's also more light resistant. The feel is not there because the more finish you put on the surface, the harder the leather feels. The pure and full anilines are going to feel the softest because they've only been dyed and nothing else is done to them, so they're very supple. These leathers can be milled, which means they can tumble them in machines to soften them. It's an added expense. So you can buy a semi-aniline leather that feels softer if they tumble it or mill it. The next range down is considered finished or pigmented. Pigmented or finished leathers are the lower selection of hides below a semi-aniline. They have some embossing and plating done to the surface to even the hide. Sometimes they sand the hide down slightly to even it, and then they'll cell grain or emboss a graining cell structure on that. One way to tell top grain leather is if you look at the grain and it's very uniform all over. You can assume that it's been altered mechanically. Now, this goes through an additional finishing process. It's dyed and then heavily pigmented. You don't see into a pigmented or finished leather. It is stiffer, but it's also technically more bulletproof. It's very, very good for high traffic, very active families. If you get a lot of sun and you just don't want to worry about the leather at all, a finished or a pigmented leather is very good in that application. It just doesn't feel as soft as a semi-aniline or a full or pure aniline. So those are the different types. These are all considered top grain leathers. None of these are splits. So we have a pigmented, finished leather, which is their base. Then we go up to a semi-aniline, which is a leather that is dyed initially, but has just a very light micropigment done to it. So it has some added protection. This is probably the most popular leather because you get almost the feel of a pure or full, but you get the serviceability that a pigmented leather gives you. And it comes in a wide range of colors. Next is your pure or full aniline. Full anilines have a light protective coating on top of an aniline. Or a pure aniline is just a naked finish that's been dyed only, and you see into the hide. Full anilines or pure anilines, you see all the natural markings of the cow. Fat folds, neck wrinkles, barbed wire nicks, manure burns, these will show on this type of leather. That's part of the beauty of that raw material. Thanks for listening. Talk to you again soon.